But your yeses truly don't mean shit when you don't have an energetic scaffolding of a no. If you never say no to people, places, things, experiences, teachings, whatever it is, your yeses hold no value. They hold no power because they're not coming from a place of you that is sovereign and that is choosing this from a soul-led place, from a place of alignment. Okay. So you'll notice that if you're the person who always says yes to everything, you probably experience a lot of waves in your energy. You probably experience where you get burnt out, where you get agitated, where you get bitter, where it's like you're doing the things because you feel like you should or you feel like you have to, right? How many of you can relate to this? Think. Welcome back to the Shadow Priestess Embodied. I'm your host, Kaylin Rakowski, and thank you for joining me today for another deep dive and exploration into your inner world, into your body, the shadow realms, where we will begin to explore some of these esoteric principles and really begin to drop them down into modern day application and embodiment. This is a sacred place where you can begin to truly meet yourself, meet your medicine, and to meet your magic. This is a place of remembrance. Take a deep breath and let's begin. Hello, gorgeous humans, and welcome back for another episode of the Shadow Priestess Embodied podcast. I'm your host, Kaylin Rakowski, and thank you for coming back. So today, what I really want to dive into is the root cause of energetic leaks. And this really came up because I have a client who we're talking about, where we begin to experience these dips in our energy, these dips in our life force, where we begin to feel disconnected from our power or even drop our power. And what really came forward in this conversation with this client was the power in being sovereign, the power in having energetic sovereignty over yourself. And I probably have said this before, and maybe you've heard me say this before, but I really believe that, the person who has mastery over their energy has mastery over the room. We live in a society today where people are walking around so disembodied, so disconnected, just so disassociated from their bodies, from their nervous system, from their essence, and yes, from their power. And I'm hoping that today, after listening to this podcast, you'll begin to notice in your own life where you can begin to do some energetic cleanup, where you're being invited to start solidifying boundaries, to standing more firm in your power, and really just becoming sovereign over yourself and over your life. Okay. So, oh, Spirit, where do we want to start with this today? So, energetic leaks. So, in my opinion, I really believe that we experience energetic leaks when we lack boundaries, right? Um, and this is something that, especially as women, I feel that we grapple with the most. We have a really, really hard time setting boundaries in our life, right? We want to be the good girl. We want to be the people pleaser. We want to be liked, right? And it's like this underlying current that we're so looking to be accepted, to be validated, to be chosen, that it makes us actually very swampy in our boundaries. And whenever we do not have a strong energetic boundary, when we don't have that foundation, then it's so much easier to experience energetic leaks and to really be disconnected from your power and from your sovereignty. So, somebody who has swamp ass boundaries. We'll just say that, right? If you've got swamp ass boundaries, it can look like this. Okay. So I want you to really check in with your heart, check in with your body, and see what's alive for you as I share this. What I notice in people who really lack energetic sovereignty is a lack of boundary. And this shows up as always being the yes girl, right? Somebody asks you to go to dinner, somebody asks you to run an errand, somebody asks you to do something for them, somebody asks you to da 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 da, it doesn't matter what it is. And your answer is always yes. And I'm not like, let me clean this up really quick. I'm not saying that saying yes is wrong or bad, but your yeses truly don't mean shit when you don't have an energetic scaffolding of a no. If you never say no to people, places, things, experiences, teachings, whatever it is, your yeses hold no value. They hold no power because they're not coming from a place of you that is sovereign and that is choosing this from a soul led place, from a place of alignment. Okay. So you'll notice that if you're the person who always says yes to everything, you probably experience a lot of waves in your energy. You probably experience where you get burnt out, where you get agitated, where you get bitter, where it's like you're doing the things because you feel like you should or you feel like you have to, right? How many of you can relate to this? Think about your day-to-day life and the activities you do with your family, with your kids, with your clients, and your workplace, whatever it is that you do simply from the energetic place of should or have to. Because there is a clear indication as to where you are creating energetic leaks. Okay. Whenever we're operating out of should or have to, this isn't coming from a place of sovereignty. This is truly coming from a place of fear. It's truly coming from a place of survival where you are trying to literally do the bare minimum because you feel like if you honor what's true for you, if you honor your no, then for some reason you'll be disconnected from the tribe, right? How many of you can relate to this? Okay. And it's this underlying fear that keeps you looping in these patterns of toxic hustle, burnout, productivity, and even just in misaligned relationships and environments because you feel like this is the thing that you have to do to get blank, or this is the thing that I need to do to get money, to get love, to get validation, to get visibility, like whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the energy isn't clean. And whenever the energy isn't clean, what you're desiring to create from that energy is going to be contorted and going to be manipulated, right? One of the things that I focus on so much with my clients is keeping the energy clean, right? If it's a no, let it be a no and honor that and choose that fully in your heart, fully in your body. And if it's a yes, make sure it's a fuck yes. And every part of you is lit up and excited to be choosing it. Okay. So the first way that I see us really experiencing these energetic leaks is not having boundaries, right? Not having boundaries, being wishy washy, being the yes girls, being the people pleaser. And my first invitation for you would be, where can I begin to say no to actually create more space for what I'm desiring to tap into and experience? Because the beautiful thing that happens, you guys, is that like when you come back to sovereignty and when you truly begin to set boundaries and say no, you actually create more capacity and room to experience your yeses, right? Your yeses, excuse me, actually hold more weight, right? Because you're not saying yes to everything. So when you start to get into this exchange with the universe where you start saying no to the things that are no longer in alignment and that don't feel good to you and that you truly have no desire or want to do, you then create room and capacity for more of the experience and more of your yeses to have room to flow into your life, right? It creates almost like a vacuum where you get to experience more of what you want because you're getting so firm in your energetic commands to say no to what you do not want and what's no longer in alignment, right? To me, it's alignment over everything. If it's not in alignment with what I feel is alive in my heart, if it's not in alignment with the mission that I have, if it's not in alignment for what God made me for, then I don't want it. I don't want it, right? Because again, coming back to it, the energy isn't going to be clean. It's going to be contorted. It's going to be manipulated. It's going to be like in this polarity where the universe is honestly confused, right? They're like, well, you said that silly example, but this was coming. You said you don't like apples and you don't want apples. But when Becky offered you an apple, you took it and you said yes, right? Like, that's a silly example, but this is exactly what I'm speaking to. The energy isn't going to be clean, right? You have to be so clear in your energetic sovereignty, in your energetic commands, in your energetic demands, in your invocations that this is what I want, this is what I stand for. And anything else that comes into my field that's presented to me is a no, right? It's soul destiny, it's alignment, or it's nothing. Okay. So that would be the first way that I would invite you to start looking at your life. Where am I operating out of shoulds and have tos? Where can I actually begin to start saying no to the things that I know are not feeding me, that I know are no longer alignment? And even that just one thing, if you take and implement from this session today, will change your life. Literally, your no's are so fucking important when you are desiring to evolve and expand, even more so than your yeses. What are you no longer choosing? What are you no longer available for? What are you no longer allowing in your field because it's not an energetic match for the type of life experience and reality that you're trying to step into and create? Okay. And this really kind of piggybacks into personal power, right? When we begin to set these energetic scaffoldings, when we begin to set boundaries, when we begin to start saying no, we have more access to our life force. We have more access to our Shakti. We have more access to our creativity, to our essence, and yes, to our power, right? To our power, because we're coming back home to ourselves as a sovereign creator, right? We begin to take radical responsibility over our lives. So when you begin setting these boundaries, right, the next thing to really look about or to look at is personal power. And I believe that our personal power is so deeply connected to our truth. Any person that I've seen that I would admire or that I believe to be powerful right now, like the powerful that is like demonstrated in today's success, where it's like the money and the cars and the titles, and well, like, to me, that's not it. Like, that's not it. But the people in my life who I look at and I say, wow, these are powerful women. This is a powerful person. It's because they are so connected to their truth and to their authenticity. They're not afraid to use their voice. They're not afraid to be expressed. They're not afraid to go against the grain. They're not afraid to be unique and to be different. So a lot of times what I notice in my clients, and I'm also guilty of this, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm pedestalized and I'm not human, because we all are, right? Um, when I notice that I feel like I begin to drop my power is when I become disconnected from my essence and my truth. When I'm trying to contort myself, when I'm trying to shrink myself, when I'm trying to almost like manipulate people's perception of me, I lose myself and I get disconnected from my power. I get disconnected from my life force. I get disconnected from the part of me that is undeniable, that is magnetic. So if you're someone who is feeling like you're experiencing energy drain, or you're having these energy leaks, or you even just don't feel like you have the life force or the momentum to act and to create and to birth the things you wish to create, I want you to look at where you're not standing in your truth. Because like I said, truth and power go hand in hand. So where are you not speaking your truth? Where are you not expressing your truth? Where are you not allowing yourself to be fully seen? These are a clear indication as to where you're dropping your power, right? When a boundary gets crossed, right? So these kind of bridge the two. When you begin to say no and you start setting these boundaries, and I will just tell you from my own personal experience, being someone who had swamp ass, no ass boundaries, right? When I began to set boundaries in my life with my family, with my friends, with my clients, you will receive pushback because people are so used to you operating in the world a certain way. They're so used to you showing up a certain way, right? Maybe this was the people pleaser. Maybe this is the overachiever. Maybe this is the yes girl, right? And when you start disconnecting from that identity and you really start coming more back into your truth and more into your sovereignty, a lot of people don't like that because they benefit from the version of you who was enslaved to that identity and that way of being, right? And this showed up for me in like a shadow in my coaching where I said, for example, my Voxer is Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Those were my parameters. But I would get messages after 5 p.m. and I would get messages on the weekend. And then I would feel like, oh my gosh, like they need help. I need to show up and I need to serve and I need to be there for them. And if it's coming from a clean place and it's like a want to place and you're lit up and you have the capacity, that's one thing. But when it's coming from this foundation of, well, I should and I have to, and I'm going to be a bad coach if I don't, right? That's where the energy is not clean. So what I see happen is that like when we then become firm in our boundaries and firm in our no's, we get a lot of pushback. But then, like, your power in that is to still hold the boundary, right? Just because my clients were upset that I didn't respond to them Saturday and Sunday after I got really clear on my energetic boundaries doesn't mean that now I have to, go back to what I was doing or give them a big explanation or X, Y, and Z. It's like, can I hold my power? Can I hold my yes? Can I hold my boundary? Can I stay true to what is in alignment with my essence and with my energy? Because the biggest thing that's going to knock us out every time and the shoulds and the have tos and not being your power and not being your truth can all be trickled down to not honoring alignment, not honoring energetic alignment. And I am at a point in my life where it's alignment over everything. It just has to be. For what I'm trying to do, for what I'm trying to create, for what I'm trying to tap into, I don't have room for misalignment. And that's going to take me being in my power. That's going to take me being in my boundaries, right? That's going to take me honoring my yeses, honoring my nos. The energy needs to be clean. And if you're someone who's not really familiar with like the term alignment, or you're like, well, what the fuck are you even talking about? To me, energetic alignment is like when we are a living prayer to our essence, right? And every single one of you who's listening to this has a very unique set of energetic mechanics. You have a very unique essence, right? You have a unique spark of divinity. You are a micro of the macro, right? Only one of one is you. And to me, being in alignment is when we really begin to honor that unique essence, when we begin to honor that unique spark of divinity, when we begin to only choose the things that feel deeply nourishing and true to that part of us. And a little caveat, because this sounds all fluffy and rainbows, alignment isn't always going to be the thing that feels the best in the moment, but it's going to be the thing that gets you closer to what you're desiring to tap into and create. What is a natural expression of your gifts, of your medicine, etc. So to me, living in alignment is like honoring that unique rhythm of my energy, that unique pulsing of my essence, of my Shakti, of my life force, right? I'm a projector. I don't like to work. I don't like to work. I don't like to work. I don't like to be super busy. I don't like to live my day jam-packed full of shit, jumping from thing to thing to thing. It makes me feel chaotic. It makes me feel disembodied. It makes me feel disassociated. It makes me start living in my head. So to me, living in alignment is being devoted to honoring a schedule that honors the unique rhythm of that, where I don't wake up to an alarm clock, where I get to set how many clients I want to work with in a day, how many activities I'm doing in a day, etc. Right? And you can always tell when something is in alignment for you because there's an ease to it, you guys. It feels almost like effortless flow where it's like you don't have to work hard and push hard and, do all these things to get blank. It's like a dance almost where you get into this like beautiful like entanglement and co-creation like with the universe, and things just magically seem to unfold and happen for you. And it really does get to be that easy, but it only gets to be that easy when you're connected to your truth, when you're connected to your power, to your energetic sovereignty, and when you move in alignment with that truth. Okay. And another like thing I've really noticed about alignment, if this is new to you guys, is that like I said, alignment may not always be the thing that feels the best in the moment, right? Maybe you're a little scared, maybe you're a little nervous, maybe you're like, "Oh my god, I've never done this thing before. What am I going to do?" Right? But you'll notice that you still have that like nudging, you have that curiosity, you have that pull, that pulsing towards it. And then after you do it, it feeds you energy, it feeds you life, right? And it's almost like time collapses when we're in alignment. Like, think about when you're with a lover or with one of your best friends, and like hours go by, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, we've been sitting at this restaurant for 4 hours." Like, it's felt like 10 minutes because you're in flow. That's flow. Now, think about, being in an environment with people you don't really like. For me, I had a bunch of old coworkers who weren't really my jam. And I'd work 10, 12-hour days, and they felt like I was there for like 3 days at a time. And the clock, like I would stare at it, and I swear it went in reverse because that environment wasn't in alignment for me and for my gifts and for my essence. So I think that you can kind of like pull on the threads and see where I'm going with this. So much about our energetic sovereignty and really being able, to like harness our life force and harness our Shakti and to create and to have the momentum and just to have the juice to really like do the things we want to do, really come down to how deeply in alignment you are allowing yourself to live. How sovereign you are being in your power, in your truth, in your expression, in your radiance, and standing in that. How deeply you can see your boundaries, right? Like how deeply you can see and recognize your own boundaries in yourself, right? How you say your yeses, how you say your nos. And what I was going to say too that was coming forward, I feel like my words are getting jumbled because I'm getting these downloads at the same time, is that like it's really hard to set energetic boundaries when you truly don't really know yourself, right? So coming back to that expression, coming back to that essence, coming back to your truth, because until you get really clear on what that part of you is asking for and what that part of you needs, it's going to be hard to set boundaries that are actually like in alignment and congruence with that part of you. Do you know what I mean? So making sure that like you see yourself and you can see the boundaries that you need to set, and then honoring and standing so firm in that choice, right? It's like getting roots with those boundaries. And the other thing that was coming up as my thoughts were getting jumbled here was that I think we have a really diluted lens of what boundary is really for. And what I see a lot of people do in today's society is that they believe that boundaries are about other people, right? Well, you were mean to me, so now I'm not talking to you anymore. Boom, I set a boundary, right? Okay, kind of, but no, like you're missing the point. Boundaries aren't there for other people, right? They aren't there to protect you from being triggered, right? Ooh, 222 as I said that. A lot of times people use boundaries as a way to avoid being triggered. And I bet some of you are fucking hella triggered as I say that. So I'm going to say it again. A lot of y'all are using boundaries as a way to avoid your own triggers, to avoid your own inner work. And if that's how you are setting your boundaries and that's what you're using your boundaries for, your energy's still gonna leak. It's still not gonna be clean because it's not coming from a true sovereign place. Your boundaries are there for you. They're not about anybody else. It is about honoring you, your truth, your essence, your energy. It's not about trying to make people be anything other than what they are or trying to get them to do blank, right? My boundaries are there to protect my most precious asset, which is my life force, which is my Shakti, which is my essence, which is my expression. That's why I have these boundaries so that I can show up here today and do the work from a clean, sovereign place, right? My boundaries aren't there to try to make people be something other than what they're not. And I honestly, not to go on a side tangent, I think that's why a lot of people struggle in relationships because they have all these expectations and attachments, and then they call them boundaries and they place them on other people. Feel that for a minute. Where do you have expectations and attachments and you place them on other people and call them boundaries? Where a different lens or a higher lens of consciousness or a different perspective would be setting energetic boundaries and scaffoldings that protect your energy, that protect your truth, right? Protect your alignment. And then as you enter into these different partnerships, relationships, environments, whatever it is, you get to just notice and draw awareness to like who they're being, what's happening, and then asking yourself, is this in alignment for me and what I want to experience? It's never about changing or trying to make anybody do anything, right? It's very egotistical. It's about honoring what's true for you. I think so much of this conversation, even as I'm talking out loud, because you guys know this just comes, I just let spirit channel, is energetic boundaries is so much about your truth, honoring your truth, moving in alignment with the truth. And those yeses and nos are just a way to protect that. You know what I mean? So I want you to take today and really look at your life and ask yourself, am I living in alignment with my truth? Where in my life am I dropping my power, dropping my expression, where I'm shrinking myself, playing small, not wanting to be seen, not wanting to go against the grain, not wanting to be disliked, not wanting to disturb anybody, right? Not wanting to be different. Because God forbid we be fucking different in a world that's all the same, right? You know, where in my life have I not been saying no? And you know this, you guys. Like, as soon as I said that, you thought about that one thing, you know, that person, that place, whatever it is. Like, where am I not saying no when I truly know I don't want this anymore? Even better question. Where do I continue to choose what I say I don't want? Because there is your biggest doorway to where you are experiencing these energetic leaks and why you feel so disconnected from your power and from your life force. It's time to come back home to your truth. It's time to allow yourself to fully be you, to bring all of your life, to live in alignment with that absolute, beautiful, unique spark of divinity, because there is the doorway into more of your life force, more of your expression, more of your essence, like more energy, more vitality, like all of the juice comes back to this. So I hope that this conversation today illuminated for you where you can begin to deepen in your boundaries, to stand in your power, and to truly live a life that is in alignment, that is soul led, and one that feels deeply nourishing, liberating, and freeing for you. Love you guys. If you're a woman who struggles with worthiness, with feeling enough, and really allowing yourself to be seen, this is literally my sweet spot and where I love to guide my clients through to help women redefine the relationship with their power, with their magic, and truly begin to live a life that is in alignment, that is fully expressed in their essence, and really which leads you to liberation, prosperity, and to deepen into your purpose. I recently have opened a few select spaces for one-on-one deep feminine mentorship and will be reopening the doors to my group mastermind emergence. Click the link in the bio to apply. I can't wait to connect.